What's up, Poker YouTube? Welcome back to another How to Beat live low stakes poker video. Today's topic, fast playing. So a lot of you, I've noticed over the years in the live low stakes games, will attempt to get too tricky, too creative, too cute in general when you have a lot of your bigger hands. I think that the majority of players that crush the live low to mid stakes environments, they will put money in the pot as fast as they can, generally speaking, to build pots as early as possible. They're not going to wait around for their opponents, who are generally a little too passive, to build the pot for them. And that's kind of like the main, I guess, point of this, is that the live low stakes opponents, they are not going to stab often enough in spots, they're just not going to bet often enough without having a decent hand, at least, so to speak. So we need to, like if you flop sets, especially like if you're the pre-flop aggressor, even if you're out of position, like you need to bet early and often. You need to bet as often as, or as much as you can that's reasonable if you believe your opponent to have a pretty strong range. Now, we don't have to go so large so early in the hand. We don't have to necessarily overextend in that sense, and especially when your opponent's range is at its widest as well. But if you get the sense on turn or river, I'm not saying you can't have this sense on the flop. Your opponent's range could be a little narrower, depending if, let's say, it's like a 3-bet pot, and you think that their range is pretty overpair heavy and you have 2 pairs or better, then obviously that's a situation where you can check raise huge, or raise very large, or just bet really large in general. But let's say you bet small on the flop, opponent calls, especially if you're unblocking, say, top pair. So if you have hands like middle and bottom set, if you have a hand like an overpair or top pair with top kicker, those are hands that you're going to want to play really fast when you're kind of unblocking top pair, so to speak. But let's say your opponent calls a flop bet and the turn brings in, let's say it's something like 9-6-5, and there's a 9 on the turn, and it gives them a lot of trips combos. But let's say you flopped a straight, or you flopped a set, and now you have a boat. That's a situation where I see a lot of players, like a lot of good players, for example, will check a lot because they say, well, a board pair that is like top pair pairing up on the turn, that's a hand that your opponent has pretty often, so GTO would dictate that you wouldn't bet that often in that spot. But we need to throw that out the window in these games. Like, it's about trying to attack your opponent when they're strong, top of range there, when you believe, ahead of them. Especially if you guys get deep at all. Like, we got to get as much money in as early as possible to be able to play for stacks by the time we get to the river. If you guys are playing 150, 200, 250, 300 big blinds deep, effectively. So yeah, you want to make sure you definitely fast play your hands, your value hands, obviously your nutty hands. You want to try to build pots as early as possible so that you can get to a situation where it's easy to play for stacks by the time you get to the river. So on the flip side of the whole, if your opponent has, like, if you believe your opponent's strong, let's say you believe your opponent's a little weaker, and you believe it's a situation where if you bet too large, you might lose them, and your hand's not really that vulnerable, then yeah, you exploitatively can size down a little bit to where, let's say you bet something like third pot on the flop. You can then bet like third pot or just half pot on turn, maybe river, something similar. Maybe you start to size up a little bit more because they could just have obviously a little bit of a stronger range. But if you get the sense based on board texture, based on how they reacted to your sizing and your aggression in general, based on what you've seen from them at the table in other hands or other sessions that you've seen them play, where you just know that they're weaker in a spot, then obviously you can size down a little bit. You need to go for that thin value, because that's another situation where I see a lot of you guys, you're really missing out and your win rate is suffering because of it. You're not value betting thin enough. So make sure you fast play your big hands, your value hands, if you will. Go for thin value when you believe that your opponent's capped. Size down if you have to, if you believe wholeheartedly that they just don't have enough that's going to call a large sizing often enough to make it worthwhile. But if you believe your opponent is near top of range and you're on top of that, you need to go for the throat. Like, you can even throw in over bets if you have to make sure you can play for stacks by the time you get to the river. So any questions or comments, go ahead and let me know as usual. And like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you're not already subscribed, visit us over at archcitypoker.com, where we'll discuss this topic more in depth. There'll be a lot more hand history examples, live stream or live streams that we go through, whether it's like the Lodge, for example, and we'll cover spots where we can fast play more often and play more exploitative against these live low stakes players. Really help you guys increase your win rate. So like I said, any questions or comments, let me know. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks.